Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not just analyzing sources or looking at dry research. We are stepping headlong into a chilling, really emotionally complex narrative.
Hmm.
I mean, think of this as opening a file cabinet labeled psychological horror. Because the material we have today, it reads like a polished script for a short film.
It really does.
It's just full of dread, this heavy atmosphere, and a final, absolutely devastating punchline. We're exploring a deep dive sourced entirely from this single masterful piece penned by the writer Swapnil, and it really demands our full attention.
It truly does. It's pretty exceptional to analyze source material that works on so many levels at once. Swapnil has leveraged all the classic tropes of gothic horror, the looming mansion, the trapped
All
spirit,
the good stuff.
all the good stuff, but grounded them in this intensely modern, very relatable dilemma. We are looking at two distinct tragedies centuries apart.
Right.
One of a woman just consumed by this historical despair, and then one of a modern man grappling with present financial choices. And they are woven together into this single, cohesive, and deeply haunting tale. The structural genius here is what makes this a true deep dive.
Absolutely. Our mission today is to unpack every single layer of emotional confinement that's centered around the Sen Mansion. We need to look closely at the difficult choices made by the living, specifically Naveen, the repairman, and then contrast them with the desperate choices made by the dead, by Nietzsche, the great aunt. And crucially, we have to spend some serious time trying to interpret that ghostly warning, this message that arrived in the most painful way you can imagine, far too late.
And the core conflict is established instantly, which sets the stakes so high right from the beginning. We meet Naveen, this dedicated repairman, and he's facing a high-stakes, high-altitude job on Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day, on all days.
Exactly. But the real conflict isn't the height of the tower. It's what he sacrifices for that paycheck.
Yeah.
It's the immediate, tangible contrast between, the abstract necessity of paying bills
Yeah.
and the visceral pain of family life,
Yeah.
epitomized by skipping Santa, skipping the park, and his daughter's favorite chocolate chip ice cream. This whole narrative is really built on the tragedy of missed moments.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's start with Naveen's character, because Swapnil doesn't just sketch a tradesman. He establishes a clear professional identity right away.
Right.
Naveen is the person who takes the jobs others avoid because they are, and I'm quoting here, too complicated or unpleasant.
That says so much about him.
It really does. It signals a man who is accustomed to difficulty, to risk, and often dealing with things the rest of society just prefers to ignore. He's a problem solver who routinely operates outside the comfort zone.
And this professional identity, this willingness to engage with the unpleasant, it immediately intersects with this overwhelming financial pressure.
It has to. The narrative provides the clear motive.
Yeah.
The Christmas Day job was simply irresistible because the bills were piling up. This isn't ambition, trying to get ahead. This is pure grinding necessity.
Just keeping his head above water.
Exactly. It transforms his acceptance of the job from, say, a professional preference into a stark financial mandate. And it just overrides the personal emotional cost he absolutely knew he would pay.
And this is where the writing just excels. It grounds this abstract concept of debt in these excruciatingly specific details. It wasn't just working on a holiday.
No.
He was explicitly sacrificing the visit to Santa, a crucial childhood ritual, the promised trip to the park, and the beloved choco chip ice cream for his girls, Garima and Seema. These details are the emotional currency of the story. They make the sacrifice immediate and painfully tangible for you, the listener, and of course for Naveen himself.
And think about the psychological maneuvering that's required there.
Yeah.
Naveen is rationalizing taking an extreme risk for a very abstract reward paying bills while sacrificing these small guaranteed moments of joy.
Yeah, the real stuff.
The real stuff. And the reaction from his wife instantly validates his internal guilt. That pointed look she gave him when he told her. It's a silence that is just loaded with accusation.
It says everything without a single word.
It does. It tells him, you're making a poor emotional trade, even if the bank balance is the thing dictating the decision.
He knew he was in the wrong, emotionally. The strip tells us he packed snacks for the girls specifically as a peace offering for later.
Oh, that's such a sad detail.
Isn't it? He was preparing for a reconciliation before he'd even started the job, knowing the emotional damage was already done. This detail just highlights his desperate attempt to control the fallout from a decision that was, at the end of the day, controlling him. He's trying to buy back the time he's about to lose.
And we have to emphasize the sheer physical danger he was signing up for. I mean, this isn't just fixing a leaky faucet.
Not at all.
The high-risk nature of the repair is underscored by the fact that he had to pack his rock climbing gear. This was a hobby now converted into a professional necessity, a tool of life-risking labor.
It just underscores the truly perilous nature of fixing the roof of the only mansion in town, which is described as having a perilously high central tower. He's deliberately seeking out danger to alleviate financial stress.
Right. And the narrative ensures we recognize that danger is not an accident. It is inherent to the duty he's accepted.
And that danger leads us directly to the setting itself, the Sen Mansion. Swapnil crafts the mansion not merely as a backdrop, but as a living, imposing character.
Absolutely.
It loomed at the edge of town, featuring a tall central tower casting an imposing shadow. It's physically intimidating, it's geographically isolated, and it immediately signals that this is a place where normal rules of engagement just don't apply.
It's the quintessential Gothic setting, designed to reflect the inner turmoil and the historical decay of the family. It is a physical manifestation of neglect and forgotten time.
The visual details are so essential to that. The garden is wild and unkept, vines are creeping over rusting gates, and the once grand facade is now peeling and dull.
It doesn't just look old, it looks wounded.
That's a great way to put it. Wounded.
It exudes this sense of standing tragedy, which perfectly primes us for the history that's held within its walls.
And the current custodian of that history is Mrs. Chandani Sen. When she greets him, her demeanor is instantly heavy and worn.
Right.
She has a stiff posture, her eyes are shadowed with a sadness that Naveen can't quite place, but he instantly recognizes it as profound. She speaks in these clipped tones, weariness just weighing down every syllable.
Yeah.
What struck me was her reluctance to discuss the repair cost. It's almost as if the price of a life or a haunting far outweighs the price of some copper sheeting.
That reluctance is key, isn't it? It suggests her sorrow is not recent. It's a deep-seated generational grief. She's occupying a space that is saturated with tragic history, and the roof repair is just this physical necessity intruding on her internal landscape of sorrow.
The preparation here is just masterful. It establishes the attic as a place of historical gravity before Naveen even steps a foot inside. So she leads him up to the attic, and the atmosphere changes entirely. It's the threshold between the mundane world he just left and the world of the past. It smelled of dust and age, filled with forgotten furniture and boxes that looked untouched for decades.
This is where history is stored, right? It's stagnant and heavy, a place where time itself seems to have just stopped.
And the focus instantly lands on the centerpiece, the circular window. Mrs. Sen lingers there. Her fingers brush the frame, almost like a caress, as if she's communing with the glass itself.
A tiny action, but it tells you everything.
It does. That small, intimate action immediately foreshadows the vital importance of that exact location. It becomes the focal point, the eye of the narrative storm, linking the past tragedy to the events that are about to unfold.
And if we view Mrs. Sen's weariness not just as, personal sadness, but as a direct result of the historical tragedy she's about to reveal, we realize her pain is not merely cognitive. It is actively consuming her present life. She's a custodian of this inherited sorrow, and the attic is, quite literally, her emotional storage unit.
This transition is seamless because Naveen is physically preparing for danger, while Mrs. Sen is preparing him psychologically. Her revelation about Nitya, her great-aunt, is delivered in this trembling voice, which signifies the deep, unresolved pain the family still carries from that day.
And the revelation itself is delivered with a terrifying simplicity. Nitya went through that window.
Chilling.
And suddenly, we know why Mrs. Sen touched the frame. It was the site of her great-aunt's final desperate act, and it instantly provides the historical context for the attic's oppressive atmosphere.
And the cause of Nitya's death reveals the core tragedy. She was trapped in a loveless marriage, having married the wrong man. This is the ultimate narrative of confinement. Her life wasn't a product of free will. It was dictated by societal expectation and, patriarchal circumstance, which led her to this act of self-destruction. This is the 19th century version of being financially trapped.
Absolutely. Trapped by circumstance and obligation. But Swapnil is careful not to confine the blame solely to the husband or the institution of marriage itself.
No, and that's an important point.
Mrs. Sen shares a painful admission that implicates the entire community. She says, "We all saw the signs, but no one did anything."
And that elevates the tragedy from merely personal to this communal failure. It was a visible, agonizing suffering that was collectively ignored or dismissed, which is, that's perhaps the cruelest form of confinement there is.
The contrast drawn between her past and her end is just heartbreaking. Nietzsche was described as being so full of life once. The fall from that vibrant state to her final desperate act, which Mrs. Sen describes as a quiet cry for freedom, is agonizing.
She wasn't just ending her life, was she? She was seeking escape, trying to literally shatter the walls of her confinement.
And the attic holds the proof of that life. Mrs. Sen confirms that letters and photos detailing Nietzsche's story are locked away up there.
Which confirms the immense emotional weight of the space. It's not just an empty room. It's a vault containing the documented evidence of a crushed life, waiting to be discovered or perhaps released.
And this is the critical moment of psychological destabilization for Naveen. Mrs. Sen delivers the central philosophical question that perfectly mirrors his own situation. She says, "Sometimes I wonder if she would have chosen differently had she the chance."
Wow, right at that moment.
Right at that moment, Naveen is literally strapping on a harness, preparing to risk his life for money, and he is confronted by a historical figure whose life was ruined by choices made under duress.
And here's where it gets really, really interesting. Naveen doesn't have time to process the historical lesson. He immediately goes from hearing about Nietzsche's past confinement to confronting the immediate danger of his own present financial confinement.
Exactly.
He straps into his climbing gear, the rain starts, and the perilous ascent begins.
The peril just ramps up dramatically, and it reflects his internal turmoil perfectly. Dark clouds gather, the rain starts falling, making the slippery slate roof even more challenging. This external danger, this meteorological hostility, it perfectly mirrors his internal stress and the high-risk gamble he is taking with his own life.
And his internal monologue confirms the connection. We see the direct line between Nietzsche's story and his own sacrifice. While he's struggling on that exposed high roof, his thoughts turn immediately to the things he gave up.
To his family.
To his family.
Yeah.
His daughter's laughter and, significantly, his wife's frustrated expression. He explicitly questions his life choices in the face of death. What choices had I made in my life? Were they the right ones?
So the physical danger is just intensifying the moral dilemma that was presented by Nietzsche's ghost story.
Absolutely. And the storm is relentless, making the descent treacherous. This is not a controlled lowering. This is the moment of the traumatic accident. The source details the physical slip and the hard fall against the roof.
And the immediate takeaway, for him and for us, is that his harness prevented a worse disaster. That's exactly what Naveen believes in that moment of trauma. He thinks he survived the most lethal part of the job.
But the survival is only physical, not psychological. He's disoriented, soaked, and profoundly shaken, and he crawls back into the attic. This transition is so essential.
It really is.
He moves from the exterior world of tangible, calculable danger, a fall to the interior world of spiritual and psychological dread. He thinks, physically safe, but now he's vulnerable to the supernatural. It sets the scene for the devastating climax by putting him in the state of high suggestibility and fatigue.
And this next segment really showcases Swapnil's narrative craft, turning that attic into a high-tension cinematic stage. Naveen is already fragile, right? He's just cheated death, or so he thinks.
Yeah.
The environment is now weaponized. Lightning illuminates the room intermittently, making ordinary shadows shift and appear to move. This is classic Gothic tension building.
The visual tension is immediate and acute, and then, there she is in the flickering light. He sees the figure of a woman in an old-fashioned dress standing right near the circular window.
The very nexus of tragedy he just learned about.
Exactly. And she doesn't move like a living person, which is what instantly tells him this is not Mrs. Sen. Her movement is characterized by unnatural grace.
That phrase, unnatural grace, it suggests a suspension of physics, a being existing in a different, sorrowful dimension. That single phrase elevates the figure from a simple ghost to a true spectral entity.
And the emotional impact is immediate. Even though her features are blurred, they are unmistakably sorrowful. Her eyes are distant, as if she's seeing something beyond him.
Maybe looking back at her own fatal choice.
Or maybe seeing the fatal choice Naveen just made on the roof. She is a vision of pure, contained despair.
And Naveen's reaction is this scramble between rationalization and just raw terror. He calls out, "Who's there?" Then he tries to ground himself by calling Mrs. Sen's name.
But he knows.
But instinctively, he knows this is not the living. This is the past demanding his attention.
This is the repetition of the tragedy, frozen in a loop. The ghost turns and runs toward the window. Naveen's instinctive reaction is this profound human impulse to intervene,
To reach out and stop her.
to reach out and stop her. He, the man who couldn't save his own time with his family, tries to save Nitya from a historical tragedy. It's a futile but deeply moving symbolic gesture.
He can't, of course. She vanishes, and then the critical sensory detail fills the attic. The sound of shattering glass.
It's an auditory trauma. It's echoing Nitya's original suicide, stepping through the cracked window glass. It is the sound of a life-breaking, replayed specifically for Naveen. It's a communication, a visceral demonstration of confinement being shattered.
The emotional aftershock just leaves Naveen trembling, soaked, terrified. He immediately connects the sound to the story. Was it her? What has she wanted from me? He is grappling with the possibility that the spiritual realm has intersected with his physical near-death experience.
But he still misinterprets it.
He still interprets the event as Nitya's tragedy, not his own.
After the terror, the house descends into this eerie silence. Naveen is desperate to find Mrs. Sen, perhaps seeking a living witness to ground him back in reality. He searches and calls her name, but the house is eerily silent.
He finds nothing. And in a house like the Sen Mansion, that absence is more terrifying than any ghost.
And then the external clue that throws him completely off the scent. Just as he's about to leave, he hears the unmistakable sound of an ambulance outside.
Right?
He peers through the attic window and he sees paramedics wheeling a covered stretcher toward the vehicle.
This is pure misdirection, and it's expertly deployed by Swapnil. The immediate dread is palpable. Naveen's stomach sinks, and he jumps to the most logical, painful conclusion based on the events he witnessed.
Of course he does. Had the tragedy of the mansion finally claimed Mrs. Sen, his focus is entirely external. He assumes this immense sorrow belongs to someone else. He assumes he is the survivor.
Shaken, he packs his gear and drives home, his mind just a whirlwind of unanswered questions about Nitya, about Mrs. Sen, and the terrifying haunting. The narrative leads us, the listener, right along with Naveen, believing the main dramatic tension is over.
Yeah, we think he's escaped.
We think he's narrowly escaped with his life and his paycheck.
And this is the moment we've been building toward. The final revelation is the single sentence that recontextualizes every choice, every sacrifice, and every fear of the preceding narrative. Naveen finally reaches his front porch, grateful for the assumed warmth and love waiting inside.
The exact things he risked his life to preserve financially.
Exactly. He pauses, taking a deep breath, preparing to face his family.
He performs the final, ultimate mundane action of the day. He turns the doorknob.
And then the ultimate punchline, delivered with shocking, crushing finality. But my hand slipped right through.
Ugh. The world instantly snaps into focus. The disorientation, the fear, the unanswered questions about the ghost. All of it resolves instantly into this single, crushing realization.
He connects the dots.
He connects the dots. The fall on the roof, the one his harness supposedly prevented from being worse, had in fact been fatal. He was the covered stretcher. He's been existing as a confused spirit since the moment of the fall.
So what does this all mean? The analysis now pivots entirely to the thematic consequences of this realization. We have to analyze the dual tragedies side by side. Nitya was trapped in a loveless marriage, confined by historical and societal expectations.
Right.
Naveen, too, was trapped not by a bad spouse, but by financial necessity, by an overwhelming duty that demanded he prioritize money over moments of love.
The parallelism is just devastating. Both characters were confined by their circumstances, and both were desperate to achieve some form of freedom. Nitya sought freedom through escape and death. Naveen sought freedom for his family through financial security, earned at great personal risk.
And both found their end in the proximity of that same dusty attic and dangerous roof. It turns the mansion into a mechanism of fatal choices.
Which raises a profound question, doesn't it? About the nature of modern confinement. We talk about Nitya's marital cage, which is overt and historically recognized. But Naveen's cage was invisible. The cage of debt, of consumer expectation, of providing for his family. Was his financial burden, which forced him onto a perilously high roof on Christmas Day, any less deadly or confining than Nitya's loveless marriage?
We would argue that Swapnil is drawing a parallel that is critical for a modern audience. The financial cage is just as lethal.
I think so too.
Naveen died trying to secure his family's future, but he did it by sacrificing their present. Nitya died trying to escape a miserable present, and she sacrificed her future. They were both victims of systemic pressure, just from different centuries.
Which brings us back to the most fascinating ambiguity in the whole story. The purpose of the ghost.
Oh.
If Naveen was already deceased upon seeing Nitya, meaning his spirit was interacting with hers, what then was her message, and why was it delivered at the moment of the shattering glass?
I see three distinct interpretations, and they kind of challenge each other. First, the simplest reading. She was demonstrating her fate. She was showing him how she died, emphasizing the violent finality of their shared fatal space. It was a macabre welcome. This is what happened to me here. Welcome to the club.
That makes sense thematically, but I don't know. I wonder if that undermines the tragedy somewhat, if the ghost was just demonstrating where's the dramatic weight.
That's fair.
I find the second possibility more compelling, that she was a spiritual companion, welcoming him into their shared purgatory. They are now two tragic souls linked by the mansion, bound by their respective cages that led to their demise.
I like that one, the idea of them being companions in this tragedy. But I think I lean heavily toward the third interpretation, the one that focuses on that cinematic detail of the shattering glass.
I mean,
The ghost vanishes and the glass shatters, a sound effect tailored just for him. I believe Nietzsche was attempting to shatter the illusion that his choices, money over family safety, were worth the risk. She was trying to communicate the true, irreversible cost of being trapped by circumstance.
so the sound of the glass becomes a final aggressive truth.
Yes. She died escaping confinement. He died trying to secure it. But the ultimate consequence is the same. Separation from the life he cherished. The ghost was shouting the truth of his mistake in a language only the dead can understand, the language of finality.
That interpretation connects back perfectly to Naveen's agonizing internal question when he was on the roof. What choices had I made in my life? Were they the right ones? The narrative provides a definitive, devastating answer, but only after his death.
Exactly.
The repairman, who took on complicated and unpleasant jobs, met the most complicated and unpleasant job of all, confronting his own mortality and the mistake of prioritizing abstract safety, which is money, over tangible presence, which is time.
It's the ultimate irony, isn't it? That he, the man who spent his life solving problems others deemed too complicated, failed to solve his own core existential problem, balancing duty and love. And it took a ghost, in a moment of pure spectral drama, to illuminate that failure.
And we really must pause to explicitly praise Swapnil's narrative craft here. The slow, heavy buildup of the Gothic atmosphere, the decaying mansion, the sorrowful Mrs. Sen, the rain and thunder, it all creates this dense, ominous tone.
It's so thick you can feel it.
You can, but the immediate sharp twist, that final line where the hand slips through the doorknob, is executed with such shocking precision. It instantly recontextualizes everything the listener just experienced.
That twist isn't just a gimmick, it's a thematic engine. We were expertly manipulated into believing that the ambulance and the covered stretcher were for the living, maybe Mrs. Sen, as a sort of punishment for her family's past neglect of Nitya.
Right, some kind of karmic justice.
Exactly. But the twist immediately shifts the focus entirely back onto Naveen's immediate, devastating personal sacrifice.
And it forces us to rewind the tape in our heads. Was the ghost running towards the window to escape, or was she running towards the window to show him what he had just done?
Oh, that's a good question.
When he reached out to stop her, was she accepting his futile gesture, or was she simply moving past him, knowing they were already sharing the same space? The moment of his death must have been concurrent with or immediately preceding her appearance.
And the source material leaves us with that open-ended question. What do you think Nietzsche's ghost was trying to tell Naveen? We've analyzed the possibilities, but the lasting ambiguity is a huge strength of Swapnil's story. It forces us, the audience, to confront our own relationship with risk, duty, and sacrifice long after the narrative concludes.
So let's bring together the threads of this deeply unsettling narrative. We explored the historical tragedy of Nitya, who chose suicide over confinement, a product of her era's expectations. Then we followed the modern dilemma of Naveen, who chose duty over family, a product of our era's financial expectations.
And we uncovered their final shared fate, forever linked by the dusty attic and the high, dangerous roof of the Sen Mansion. This deep dive was about so much more than a ghost story. It was about the eternal, paralyzing struggle between financial necessity and the devastating personal cost of our choices, especially when we feel, like Naveen did, utterly trapped.
Right.
He died trying to buy happiness for his family on a day meant for love and presence.
Naveen was killed while attempting to earn money for his family's happiness. Nitya was killed trying to escape her unhappy marriage and find freedom. They were both, in their own ways, striving for a better life.
And this leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull over. If both characters prioritized freedom and love, but were ultimately destroyed by their attempts to achieve it in the same fatal location, does that suggest a terrifying concept of fatalism? Was the mansion simply waiting for its next victim, regardless of whether they were seeking love or securing wealth?
Does the environment itself possess a destiny that overrides personal choice?
The truly chilling question about free will versus inevitability. Perhaps the ghost was just showing him that, for some people, the cage is always waiting.
Thank you for diving deep with us today into Swapnil's brilliant narrative.
Until next time.